In this lecture, we're going to be testing for the MA settings that have worked in the past and then get a view of how robust they are for the future. In order to start the testing, I've loaded the Magic MA as the expert advisor. I've loaded the pound yen as the currency that we're going to be using for this particular test. And why the pound yen is that it is one of the more volatile currencies and therefore is more likely to trend. I'm going to be testing from the 1st of October 2013 to the 30th of September 2014. And the reason why I've chosen that period is that I have some good historic data covering that particular period. We're going to be using the 15-minute chart, and why I'm using the 15-minute chart is that it will cut down on slippage as the price moves over the moving average. If you use a 4-hour candle, for instance, the candle can move 100 pips before it closes on the other side of a moving average. That causes quite a lot of slippage, whereas on the 15-minute candle, it is less likely to have that extreme slippage. Because we are using the 15-minute time frame, the moving average settings might look highly inflated, but when you convert them back to the 4-hour or daily charts, you'll find that they are quite acceptable. I'm setting the spread for 5, which is a reasonable spread for the pound yen. And what we now need to do is we now need to look at the settings that we are going to optimize. To do that, I'll click on Expert Properties, and it opens the settings for us. What I want to do is I want to have neutral settings for all of the inputs except for the MA period and the MA offset. So I'm going to go through the existing settings, and I'm going to, for instance, for all the days, I'm going to say yes, make them active. So that's what I'm doing right now. So now all the days of the week are active. I'm just going to unclick those because we don't want to optimize them. Then the hours of the day, I want to have a full 24-hour cycle. So I'm going to start with 0 and I'm going to go to 23:59. So that's almost a 100% full cycle. Must probably be missing 1 minute. Then we are going to, doesn't matter what is in there now because that's going to be optimized. The take profit, I'm going to have nothing as a take profit and nothing as a stop loss. So it's going to run the basic moving average system, and I'm going to have no trailing stop there. Now we have a clean EA with only the moving average period and moving average offset that will be optimized. In order to optimize those settings, I am going to click them, and then let's have a look at what we want to cover. Now, seeing that this is the first optimization run, we want to cover as wide an area as possible. So I'm actually going to put in here 50 with steps of 50 right up to 1,000, and I'm going to do the same thing on the offsets. 50 with steps of 50 right up to 1,000. So now we have our EA pretty neutral in all the other areas, and we're going to optimize the MA period and offset. So all that's required is that I click on OK and click on this button here which says optimization. Before we click on start, we need to decide on what type of testing we're going to be doing, every tick or the open price testing. And in this case, we can use the open price testing because with this EA, the decision whether the price is above the moving average or below the moving average is only made once the candle has closed and opened a new candle. So this is ideal for this type of testing, open price testing only. We will check the results back to the every tick basis once we've found some optimized settings. Now, before I click on Start, I'm going to go back into Expert Properties, click on the Testing label or tab, and make sure that I've got an account balance that's reasonably big that I can use for this particular testing. Now, 10,000 should be fine for a 0.1 lot size. Also, I want to make sure that this genetic algorithm is not ticked, because I actually want to see the actual results. So we say yes, that's fine, and I can then do Start. I want to make sure that it is going to show me the negatives and the positives. Sometimes it only shows the positive results, but this one is quite good. It is showing the negatives, so I'm happy with that. So it's setting off. It's already done 220 of the 400, so it's not going to take long to complete this test. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the video until it's completed the 400 items. The optimization is finished and it's completed the 400 tests out of 400. And the results are extremely disappointing. There's only one positive out of 400 tests on 400 combinations of settings. Basically testing 20 MA period combinations against 20 MA offset combinations, and that's where the 400 tests come from, 20 times 20, and we have only found one successful trade. Immediately that tells me that this is not a robust system on its own. In other words, you cannot under any circumstances trade the moving average crossover system on its own. Now, the tester also comes with an optimization graph, and I'm going to open that graph, and let's open it and see. Now, this doesn't mean much at all, but there's an option for a two-dimensional surface. So I'm going to click on two-dimensional, and I'm going to click the x-axis is the MA period and the y-axis is the MA offset. I want to see if there are any patterns in the results that we achieved. And if you look at the graph, this is basically the axis is from 50 to 1,000, and the axis is from 50 to 1,000, and there's the only bit of pattern that there is in the setup. So it is saying that the MA period 50 with a big offset is generally better, and then rolls down lower in that type of fashion. But certainly there isn't a clump of positive results in this graph, which is also discouraging. It means that there's no area where the settings are nicely grouped, providing a bit of safety around the optimal settings. So the optimal setting that we have at the moment is a setting of 270 offset. So let's just go with that setting. There's nothing much we can do. At this point, what I would do is I would do two things. I'd either consider testing another currency, because this currency has given pretty bad results, or I would consider testing another period. But we are testing a whole year, so it is pretty representative, and the currency is quite volatile, so let's stick with this particular one. Now, there's a trick, and watch this one closely. What you do is you go to the best setting, you right-click on the best one, and the first option says set input parameters. So if I click on this, it will automatically take the best result and put it into my EA inputs. So if we look now, you will see that the period is 200 and the offset is 700. So it is automatically put that into our inputs. We can now unclick this because we have optimized that element of the EA so far. So let's move on to the next test, which will be now looking at whether adding a target and a stop or a following stop will help improve the results. And this we'll do in the next lecture.